Gabriel, the leader of a dangerous terrorist group, begins putting together a team of hackers to carry out a massive operation. At an airport, a hacker named Torvald is stopped by security after officers discover something suspicious during an inspection. He is immediately taken away for further questioning. It turns out Torvald was one of the hackers hired by Gabriel, but after being captured by the FBI, he quickly becomes a liability. Gabriel knows that if Torvald talks, the entire mission could fall apart. To keep the operation secret, Gabriel has him eliminated before the FBI can get any useful information out of him. Now forced to find another elite hacker, Gabriel starts searching for someone capable enough to continue the mission. The plan he's preparing is incredibly complex, and without a genius-level hacker, it simply cannot move forward. That is when Gabriel sends his assistant, Ginger, to approach a former hacker named Stanley. Stanley was once arrested by the FBI after unleashing a virus that severely damaged their systems and caused massive losses. He spent 2 years in prison for his crimes. Even after being released, Stanley is permanently banned from touching computers or accessing the internet. But despite that, Ginger tracks him down and asks him to meet Gabriel. At first, Stanley refuses. However, Ginger has already researched every detail about his life. She knows exactly what kind of pressure he's under, and she uses his weaknesses to convince him. To seal the deal, she hands Stanley an advance payment of $100,000 just for agreeing to meet her boss. Desperate for money, Stanley eventually accepts the offer. The two of them travel to Los Angeles, where Stanley finally comes face to face with Gabriel. Without wasting any time, Gabriel immediately puts Stanley to the test. He wants proof that Stanley still has the skills to break into even the most secure systems in the world, including the United States Department of Defense. Stanley warns them that he is legally forbidden from using computers. But when he refuses to cooperate, Gabriel's men point a gun directly at his head, leaving him with no choice. Under intense pressure, Stanley is forced to hack the system. Gabriel even tries to distract him further by creating an extremely uncomfortable situation around him. But despite everything happening at once, Stanley never loses focus. And in the end, he successfully breaches the system in just 60 seconds. It all started here. Welcome to Swordfish.
Swordfish.
After seeing the results of the test, Gabriel becomes completely convinced that Stanley is the hacker they've been searching for. His skills are on a completely different level, and very few people in the world can do what he does. Stanley is not just talented, he's a true genius when it comes to hacking. At the same time, an FBI agent named Robert is investigating the murder of Torvald. While reviewing airport security footage, he notices something suspicious. Just 2 hours before Torvald was killed, Stanley arrived at the Los Angeles airport. Robert immediately recognizes the name. Years earlier, he was the one responsible for arresting Stanley for hacking into FBI systems. Seeing both Torvald and Stanley connected to Los Angeles on the same day raises serious concerns for him. Robert starts believing that something much bigger is about to happen. Trusting his instincts, he assigns several agents to secretly keep Stanley under surveillance. Meanwhile, Stanley officially begins working for Gabriel and is given access to an extremely advanced computer setup with unlimited internet bandwidth. The system is so powerful that it allows him to access 6 different networks simultaneously, something nearly impossible on a normal machine. Gabriel then gives Stanley a new assignment. He wants him to create a powerful software program in a highly sophisticated virus called Hydra. The Hydra program is designed to break through the financial systems of banks all around the world. If Stanley can successfully complete it, Gabriel promises to pay him $10 million. Wanting desperately to regain custody of his daughter, Stanley agrees to the deal and starts working on Hydra. The next day, Stanley decides to visit his daughter, Holly, after missing her for so long. The two reunite at her school, and it becomes clear that Holly misses her father just as much. More than anything, she hopes they can become a family again. When Holly's mother arrives late to pick her up, Stanley gets the chance to drive his daughter home himself. But shortly after that, several FBI agents suddenly approach him, including one of Robert's men. Still traumatized by his past arrest, Stanley immediately panics and runs. A chaotic chase follows through the city. But in the end, Robert manages to catch him. Robert is confused by Stanley's reaction because he only wants to ask a few questions. He begins investigating Stanley about Torvald's death, but Stanley insists he knows nothing about it. According to him, He only came to Los Angeles to see his daughter. The reason Robert is so suspicious is because Stanley and Torvald used to work together in the past. Since both hackers suddenly appeared in Los Angeles around the same time, Robert believes there has to be a connection. Even so, Robert trusts his instincts enough to realize Stanley may not be the real threat. He eventually lets Stanley go and gives him his contact information in case he ever needs help. At the same time, Robert secretly orders his agents to continue monitoring him. Later, when Stanley returns to Gabriel's headquarters, he catches Ginger using a phone surveillance device. Suspicious of her behavior, Stanley confronts her, and Ginger reveals what appears to be a shocking secret. She claims to be an undercover DEA agent who has been spying on Gabriel the entire time. She asks Stanley to keep her identity hidden and secretly work together with her. Not long after that, Gabriel takes Stanley to a cafe and finally explains the real operation behind everything. The mission is called Swordfish, and it was originally connected to a secret DEA operation. According to Gabriel, corrupt DEA agents had been laundering money by secretly reselling confiscated drugs. Over the years, the profits were hidden away in bank accounts, eventually growing into a fortune worth $9.5 billion. After learning about the money, Gabriel became obsessed with stealing it. That is the true reason he recruited Stanley. He needs the Hydra program to break into the bank's central servers and gain access to the hidden funds. As the days pass, Stanley spends all of his time developing the Hydra program. After countless hours of work, he finally completes it. Once the software is finished, Stanley hands the Hydra program over to Gabriel on a DVD. Satisfied with the results, Gabriel keeps his promise and transfers $10 million into Stanley's account. Not long after that, Gabriel reveals more about himself. He explains that he is part of a secret organization and has spent years constantly changing identities to avoid being tracked. He also promises Stanley that once everything is over, he will help him regain custody of his daughter. Believing things are finally turning around, Stanley heads to his ex-wife's house to see Holly. But the moment he enters the house, he discovers something horrifying. Everyone inside has been murdered, including his ex-wife. That is when Stanley realizes the truth. Gabriel was behind the killings, and Holly has been kidnapped. On that same day, Gabriel and his team launched their attack on the DEA's hidden bank accounts at the World Bank. Desperate to save his daughter, Stanley immediately goes after them. He also contacts Robert and asks for help. Together, Stanley and the FBI attempt to negotiate with Gabriel, but the situation quickly falls apart. Gabriel forces Stanley to continue working for him, making it clear that Holly's life depends on it. At the same time, the FBI tries to rescue several hostages who have bombs strapped to their bodies. But when agents attempt to fight back, one of the hostages is killed in a devastating explosion. After that, Gabriel orders Stanley to use the Hydra program to break into the DEA accounts and transfer the money. Once the hack is complete, billions of dollars are successfully moved into Gabriel's account. Since Stanley fulfilled his part of the deal, Gabriel releases Holly as promised. But just moments later, the stolen money suddenly disappears from Gabriel's account. Realizing he has been tricked, Gabriel captures Stanley again. Fortunately, Holly manages to escape and is rescued by one of the FBI agents. Furious that Stanley outsmarted him, Gabriel forces him to hack the system again and return the money permanently. Stanley refuses at first, but Gabriel threatens to kill Ginger in front of him if he does not cooperate. To save her life, Stanley gives in and hacks the bank systems once more. This time, the money is transferred back permanently into Gabriel's account. But even after getting what he wants, Gabriel still kills Ginger without hesitation, claiming it is because she is a DEA agent. It turns out Gabriel had known for a long time that she was supposedly spying on him. After that, Gabriel and his team load all the hostages into a heavily modified bus and force Stanley to come along as well. Earlier, Gabriel had demanded that the FBI prepare a plane for their escape. If they refused, the hostages would die. Left with no choice, the FBI agrees, and the aircraft is prepared at the airport. As the bus heads toward the airport, it becomes clear that the plane Gabriel demanded was nothing more than a distraction. Instead of boarding the aircraft, his team smashes through police barricades and escapes in an unbelievable way. A helicopter suddenly lifts the entire bus into the air and carries it away from the authorities. The bus eventually lands on top of a skyscraper, where another helicopter is already waiting to transport Gabriel and his men out of the city. Before leaving, Gabriel abandons all of the hostages inside the bus. Fortunately, the shock sensors attached to the bombs on the hostages have already been disabled, allowing everyone to survive safely. As Gabriel and his team board the helicopter, Stanley notices a rocket launcher inside the bus. Without wasting a second, he grabs it and fires directly at Gabriel's helicopter. The shot hits perfectly, and the helicopter explodes in midair. The next day, Robert and Stanley visit the morgue to confirm Gabriel's death. After the body's identified, the FBI officially concludes that the infamous terrorist Gabriel has finally been killed. But something does not feel right. After Ginger's supposed death, the FBI is unable to locate her body anywhere, either at the crime scene or in any hospital. Once investigators dig deeper, they uncover another shocking discovery. Ginger was never actually a DEA agent. At that moment, Stanley realizes he has been manipulated the entire time. The truth is that Ginger and Gabriel were partners from the very beginning. Ginger only pretended to be an undercover DEA operative so Stanley would trust her and never suspect she was part of Gabriel's organization. Then comes the final twist. The body recovered from the helicopter explosion was never Gabriel's real body at all. He had faked his death by using another person's identity to fool the FBI. Earlier in the story, Gabriel mentioned that he constantly changes identities, and now it becomes clear just how skilled he is at disappearing without a trace. Stanley eventually figures out the truth, but he chooses to stay silent. After everything that happened, all he cares about is living peacefully with his daughter again. A few weeks later, a woman arrives at a bank under a completely new appearance and identity. It is revealed to be Ginger. After moving the stolen money, she travels to a yacht where another man is waiting for her. That man is Gabriel, now living under yet another new identity. The two terrorists successfully escape with the fortune and continue their criminal lives together, while Stanley finally gets the happy ending he wanted with his daughter. And that is where the film comes to an end. So the moral of the story is never trust a hacker who changes identities every 5 business days, and definitely do not build world-ending software just because someone offers you child support money.